Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. It's a real pleasure, an honor of mine to reintroduce you to someone who I've had the pleasure of interviewing a few times before, Carmellia Ray. She is a celebrity matchmaker and a relationship expert. She helps people find the right people to make their life a lot better. Carmellia, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. It's always an honor and a pleasure to come back and have a conversation about love and dating and anything to do with relationships.
Well, thank you so much for doing so. And let me ask, I guess off the top, how did you get into such a line of business?
Oh my goodness. I wish it was a little more glamorous, although it's not. In 1992, I applied for a job in a telemarketing agency for a dating company. At the time, it was called Together Dating. And my role was to make phone calls in a call center using a telephone because we didn't have social media back then. And I would literally call people and tell them all about matchmaking and get to know them. So my job in the industry started with literally being a telemarketer in a call center. So that's how I got into it. And I was really good at it. And I connected very quickly. And that's what happened.
And you say you're a celebrity matchmaker. Tell me, what's the difference between a celebrity matchmaker and a regular matchmaker or a dating coach?
Well, I have a very high profile in media now. I've been on multiple television shows. I've appeared on CNN, ABC, NBC, Fox, Oprah. I had 4 seasons of my own reality TV show. And on top of that, at being a person on television, I'm also working with celebrities. I cannot tell you who they are because that's a breach of contract, but I am working with very high profile influencers, C-level executives, entrepreneurs. I primarily work with successful entrepreneurs and celebrity profiles.
And you're also a relationship coach. What's the difference, or a relationship expert? How do you become a relationship expert and coach?
Well, as with all industries, to be called an expert, they say you need to spend 10,000 hours in your craft. I have been in the dating business for 30 years. So probably tens and thousands of hours in my craft. And I've spoken to over 65,000 singles on the very top.
65,000 singles?
Yes. And counting, 65,000. I booked appointments, Brian. So over the span of like the 30 years that I was in the industry, I had booked thousands of appointments. So I literally quantified the number of conversations because when technology came into place, you could quantify that. So over 65,000 conversations, singles that I've talked with. And this doesn't include, speaking in a room of thousands of people. And I've impacted so many more since. And since social media and YouTube, one of my videos on YouTube has 239,000 viewers. And so not including anybody that's watched any of my advice or consuming my content right now. So there's a big impact. So I'm very happy to say, I've helped a lot of people.
So what have you got to say? What are the secrets that get you 239,000 views? Like, what is it that you're trying to do? How is it that you're making a difference in these people's lives? Do you have like secrets to love or secrets to success in dating? What is it?
Well, this particular video, I'll give you the title. I think it's okay to mention, but it's how to turn a woman on in bed. So I can understand why 239.
Okay, I have to find this video now.
239,000 men. I mean, I do check the audience. So 99% of men, there's 1% of women in that 239,000 are like, what is it? How to turn a woman on in bed. So of course, when it comes to intimacy and when it comes to attraction, we want to know these things, right? And is there a secret? I mean, there's secrets to everything, right, Brian? I know you're a successful businessman. So I could ask you, what's the secret to becoming a successful business person? What's the secret to raising 3 children, right? Everybody has secrets, so to speak, coming from the experience that they're in. So when you've had 65,000 conversations and you've been in an industry over 30 years where you've watched the evolution of technology and the introduction of, Match.com and social media and Tinder and all of these new technologies, Yes, I believe that I have a unique point of view, and that I myself, being a woman that's been in a divorced scenario, a blended family, my own personal experience gives me the confidence to be able to teach and share the things that I've learned through the experiences that I've had with myself and my clients, more importantly.
So you've gone through a marriage and a divorce. You say that, blended family. So lots of people go through divorce and lots of people think about blended families. Do they work?
Anything can work when you put the effort and time in and you have agreements and compromises. Blended families can absolutely work. And at the same time, some blended families do not work. Not only are you thinking about the couple, but you're also thinking about the children. You're also having to deal with the partners. And so there's a lot of moving parts here. So it really has to do with the individual situation. It always helps when you can meet and date somebody where you're aligned and your values are compatible. So there's less friction between the two of you. If you have a solid relationship between the partner, that's helpful. But then you introduce children. Children have their own traumas. Children have their own loyalties. Are they ready for a new partner? Are they going to accept that partner? You might be dating, and this happened in my own situation when my son became a teenager, or, when my daughter, for example, when I started dating my current partner, and my daughter, during that separation, when my daughter's loyal to her dad and then sees this new person that mommy's hanging out with, she takes a bit of adjusting, right? Because it's difficult for children. So as long as you've got support, and I believe in working with professionals, whether that's a family counselor, whether that's speaking to your child, having them being part of the conversation, acknowledging their feelings, and having open dialogue about it. I think a lot of conflict happens when people go on about their business and they're not acknowledging the different people that are at play and respecting each other's boundaries and feelings. So I'm certainly not a therapist, but I have my own. So I can tell you it's very helpful to work with a professional.
So you talk about being aligned. Do opposites attract, or do you have to have similar attitudes in life?
I think opposites can attract. It just depends on where you are opposing. Like if you have opposite interests, that's not a deal breaker. There are some key life values that need to be aligned. Opposites do not attract if you have difference of opinion in finances, if you have difference in opinion in religious matters. Sometimes it doesn't work when you have very different opinions in political views. Politics doesn't necessarily play a major role, but it also depends on, how invested you are or how strong you believe.
I've got one friend now who is so upset that his spouse is an anti-vaxxer and he's not.
This is a divide. Like, let's talk about that. In the dating world, it's creating such a divide. Some of my clients will say, I am not dating somebody who's an anti-vaxxer because that goes against my values. And they make that decision about being vaxxed or anti-vaxxed as a strong decision point. Clearly, if you're pro-vax or anti-vax, we can't get along because it represents deeper values, right? And so for some people, it doesn't matter whether you're vaxxed or not vaxxed. They're more concerned about safety, and people honor and respect people's decisions because it's not that important. But for some, it is the deal breaker. So Brian, being aligned is so important. And speaking about blended families, you're already trying to appease everybody. And if you guys are having a problem getting along, imagine how the children are going to feel, or other parties, when they're in a volatile or high conflict situation.
It's going to be a struggle, no question.
Yeah.
We're chatting tonight with Carmellia Ray. She is a celebrity matchmaker and a relationship coach and expert. We're going to take a break for some messages and come right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saturday Night 60. It's a real pleasure of mine to, again, interview Carmellia Ray, who is a celebrity matchmaker and a relationship expert. She coaches people on relationships, I guess. And Carmellia, I follow you closely and check out Instagram on a fairly regular basis. And there's a bunch of the posts that you've made. They're really quite interesting. I want to ask you a little bit about if I could. One was a post about someone that you had done an interview with who was a single, divorced, successful female entrepreneur. And you have an episode called Better Love. And you talk about the person's name was Kim Walsh Phillips.
Yes.
She talks about the challenges of dating as a single, divorced, successful female entrepreneur and how difficult it is to be a successful female entrepreneur and still find their match. Why would it be so much more? Are men intimidated by successful single female entrepreneurs?
In her case, part of the reason why it was so difficult for her in that moment in time is she was living in a town or smaller town where entrepreneurship was just not, the common practice. It was more a 9 to 5, get a job. Maybe it was a steel town. I don't know. No offense to steel town people. Okay, guys. It was just that she had found the dating pool. Yes, she found herself being the oddball, that she was highly ambitious and the men she was dating were very happy where they were. They didn't have goals to leave where their comfort zone. And so for her, she saw life as, the big grandiose stage that she's playing on. She's a multi-7-figure entrepreneur. So that being said, even now, maybe she's breaking the 8-figure mark, past 6 figures, 7 figures. It's challenging when you are a single female being very, very successful. And for some men, yes, they found it very intimidating. The other thing about being an entrepreneur is she loved talking about work, Brian. And so many people when they're not at work, they don't want to talk about work, but she loves talking about her work. And the funny thing is she did meet a partner who is a great match for her because he completely supports the entrepreneurship, even though he's a corporate guy. And you'll watch, if you want to watch the interview, that's great. But when he bought a house with a basement that was a studio for her. So he's completely supportive, not intimidated. So I think that was the challenge, is being a single successful entrepreneur as a female. A lot of women want to downplay their success, Brian, because they feel like some men are not going to be able to keep up, or they feel that they're competing against men. And I hear this a lot.
So this is interesting. A lot of people say that, the successful corporate person, the successful male entrepreneur wants the trophy wife and wants the supportive spouse and go for the younger, supportive person. And almost what you're suggesting is the successful female entrepreneur wants an equal, not a supportive. Is that the case?
It may not always be. I think they want an equal in drive and ambition, and an equal in somebody who is aligned with the bigger vision. You don't necessarily need to be an equal financial partner. That being said, there are some women that are entrepreneurial, that do well, that do say to me, I do want somebody that is an equal financially, and they will give me whatever that bar is. If she's a 6-figure earner and she's earning 150,000, maybe her minimum is, I'd like to meet somebody who's making a minimum 6-figure income at my level. Now, when some women are at a level where money is not an issue and you don't have to make the same amount of money, or you're likely not going to, then they want somebody who has equal values, equal drive in family, and sort of just not wanting to feel like she's the man in the relationship, right? So it's really important that when you're dating somebody who's successful and a woman, she understands what her goals are. Because the more, Brian, you put this list, and they must be this height, and they must make this income, and they must be from this city and have this degree, you really narrow that pool, and it's really, really tight. So if you're okay with being single for a while, because guess what? I don't make people out of clay. It's a really fascinating conversation. And that's why people are so picky, and they hire a matchmaker to try to help them find that needle in a haystack.
Fascinating. You had another post that I found interesting about the wing girl method. This was Marnie, and she was a wing girl, and she said she had developed something called the wing girl method. Everyone knows about wingmen. What's a wing girl, and what's the wing girl method?
Oh my God, Marnie Kinrys is absolutely incredible. I love that you're watching my posts. Oh my gosh. So back in the day, Marnie discovered that she would be the person in the room at the parties that would identify the shy guy and for the shy guy say, you know what? Brian, you have to meet my friend Carol. So she would act as that wing girl. It's that person that speaks on your behalf, that kind of edifies you, your BFF, but in a female form. So if I were going out with my single guy friend, I'd be the best person because the wing girl takes the focus off the gentleman and sort of edifies that person and goes up to the female because I can pick up any female.
Okay, so this is interesting. So the typical wingman is a buddy, a male buddy. But what you're saying is the wing girl is a female, but she's helping out her male friend, not other women, but a male friend.
No, exactly. By the way, I am the best female wing girl for hire. Just saying, guys, if you need me to edify you a night on the town. And by the way, the more attractive your wing girl is, guess what? Attractive people tend to draw attention of people. So when you walk in a room, and even when I'm scouting, I'm like, who's the most attractive? Who's the most gregarious? Who is the center of attention? And I'm just saying that from my own preference because I'm attracted to successful, attractive people. I want that in my life. So as a wing girl, pick somebody that is outgoing. Marnie's beautiful. She is spontaneous. She'll go up to anybody and say, oh, have you met my friend Frank? Oh my God, he's so funny. Come over here, Carol. Girls, you got to meet my friend Frank. And Frank is like, oh my God, because he's not going to say it, right? So that's why it's great to have a wing girl. So that is what a wing girl does. It's the person who bigs you up and basically introduces you to the hot girl in the room or the one that you have eyes on, right? And that's how I play my role as a matchmaker. When I'm at an event, if I'm with a client and they're like, that person's interesting, within 3 seconds, guess where I'm at, Brian? I'm over where that person is. And I'm like, you have to meet my friend.
But I think the way that you described a wing girl versus a matchmaker is different. A matchmaker would be trying to take a look at the two different people and trying to figure out who is compatible.
Absolutely.
Right. While a wing girl, you're describing as going and getting that hot girl or the most attractive and someone that maybe, and you're edifying me or whoever it is that you're being the wing girl for, maybe building us up when we may not live up to the edification that you're talking about. And really what you should be doing is telling the truth. No?
Oh, well, here's the thing. I am not going to lie about the qualities of this person. If you are hiring a wing girl, then that wing girl should know you. And when I say hot girl or most attractive, that's all you know when you walk in a room, right? A matchmaker, yes, goes deeper than the superficial layer and the physical layer. The job of the matchmaker is to go deeper, to ask the questions, to get the personality traits, to know if they're single, if they're not single, where they are in their journey. A matchmaker will not introduce you to someone until they know that you're compatible. A wing girl is there to make connections. It's kind of like real life Tinder. You, not you, not you, but in person. So that's the difference. Of course, can a wing girl do a little bit of edifying or sort of screening? Sure, they're going to see. Are they wearing a ring? Are you single? Hey, are you single? My friend thinks you're cute. If they're not single, then you move. Oh, do you have any single friends that kind of look like you with your vibe? So it just depends. That wing girl is really just helping you out and getting you in front of people that you would be attracted to. So that's the point of the wing girl.
Sounds like the professional matchmaker has a very different job and really is trying to understand what you're all about and what you want out of life and what your personality is, what your traits are, etc. Versus just trying to score the hot girl. Tell me, how is it that you get all that information, and when you get it, what are you looking for? And again, I'm asking, do opposites attract, or no, you want someone that's very similar to all those traits that you got?
Well, Brian, as a matchmaker, a way to work with me, number one, is you have to fill out a pretty intense matchmaking form. So if you go to carmelliaray.com as an example, on my main page, men can apply and women can apply, and you fill out a short survey. I will interview and meet each and every person to know exactly who they want and what they're looking for. In fact, I feel like my interview is like a first date with me and the client, and that I am doing like, it always feels like a first date. Some of my female clients, when they meet me in person, they get dolled up, they get dressed up, and they want to impress me as the matchmaker. And similarly, I like to impress my clients. I don't show up without being attentive, listening to them. So Brian, of course there's a different process as well. One of the processes of matchmaking is, if I introduce you to someone, not only am I getting feedback, I'm getting your feedback on the date, and I'm getting the other person's feedback. So I just arranged a date the other night with an entrepreneur in Toronto to a gentleman who lives in St. Louis. She is open to dating nationally. They had a video date. Not only did I get her feedback, I got his feedback. And oftentimes the feedback is so telling, right? He's telling me one thing, she's telling me one thing, and there's some truth in between. So that's the other part of working with a matchmaker, is that along the way, you're fine tuning, and we're able to discover if there's any behaviors that are working against you, right? Like, for example, if his feedback was, I felt like, she was a little bit cold, and this is not an actual situation, but I'm going to give feedback that has happened. She wasn't really open. I felt like there was a little bit of a wall there, but maybe on the second date, she'll relax. And then for a female's context, she might say, oh, he talked a lot about himself. He didn't seem to ask me a lot of questions. So it's difficult for me to know whether he was interested in me or not. And sometimes those behaviors, Brian, are telltale signs of nervousness. It doesn't mean there's a lack of interest. Oftentimes when people talk about themselves, it's because they're afraid to ask questions, or it is a sign of nervousness. So it also takes a person of experience and a matchmaker like myself to know what are behaviors that are potentially, red flags or deal breakers, and what's common behavior that people do when they're very nervous. They talk a lot. They talk about themselves. They don't ask the right questions. It's not always an indication of a lack of interest. So that's the interesting part about my job, is being able to talk to both parties and coming up with what is the actual scenario. Because two people on the same date, I got to tell you, they have different perspectives, and it could be completely opposite. It's so interesting.
Fascinating that you're having a virtual date between Toronto and St. Louis. Can virtual dates work? Can long distance relationships work, particularly in a time of pandemic when we can't cross the border?
I'll tell you what, I was featured in Business Insider twice, and in the front page of the lifestyle magazine of the New York Times, because I participated in the Clubhouse app, and I ran a room, for those who know the Clubhouse app. And there was a Canadian gentleman, Michael Graziano, who lives in Vancouver, who heard the voice, and I was the opposite way around. Natasha Grano is a mindset coach. She heard the voice of Michael. She lives in the UK. He lives in Vancouver. During the pandemic, they started dating. They were intrigued. They talked. Within a month and a half, he flew from Vancouver to the UK, met her, flew there twice. They got married within 90 days, and they are a match made in audio, okay, through the pandemic. So yes, it can totally happen. They dated long distance. They spent a lot of time together. And there's a new phrase, Brian, it's called hardballing. Hardballing is dating like a CEO. That's where people today, they don't have time to waste. They're getting to the point. Do you want to have kids? Do you not want to have kids? Are you smoker or non-smoker? Do you want to move? Do you want to live together? How much money do you make? What are your political goals? What are your religious values? What do you want to name our kids? Like, people are talking about these very intimate situations very quickly because of the pandemic. So the pandemic has taught people to either get to the point really quickly and they're hardballing, or another dating trend is slow dating, where they're really taking their time. They're not rushing to meet one another. They're building more of an intimate, emotional connection before moving into intimacy, because Lord knows we don't want to catch the COVID, right? So you want to be a little bit more discerning before you hop into bed with somebody or take it to something physical during the times that we're in. So it's a very interesting time that we're in right now.
Hardballing and slow dating, terms I just don't know anything about. Fascinating conversation we're having with Carmellia Ray, who is a celebrity matchmaker and a relationship expert. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Carmellia in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with Carmellia Ray, who is a celebrity matchmaker, and a relationship expert. And talking about relationships, you had another post, Carmellia, that I really quite enjoyed. It was called "The Power of Personal Branding When Finding Love and Partners." And you talked about meeting someone by the name of Virginia, and that the power and importance of personal branding when you're single. And it was branding not only for business, but for dating. Really? You have to brand yourself for dating? Seriously?
Sure. I mean, you think about it. You are on display. Everything, about who you are and what you do. Here's what people do, Brian. The minute I introduce them to someone, or as a matchmaker, they discover through the world of Google, they get a photo. Some of my clients, I'm not kidding, within a minute of sending them a bio of a potential client, because we don't give away last names or any details, but people are resilient, Brian. The first thing that they're doing, they are Googling, let's say it says Brian, CEO of a financial company who lives in Ottawa. What are they typing into Google? Brian, CEO, seeing what comes and seeing the photos. Within seconds, they are sending me, is it this person? It's LinkedIn. Here's their Instagram. They know everything about them. I have had people cancel dates because they saw something on social media they didn't like, or they saw something or they're more excited. It works both ways. They either are concerned about a date because, did you know that, he supports Trump, or this person does this, or they are a non-vaxxer. They just talked about, I literally had a client say, because she's so anti-Republican, right? The gentleman liked a photo of Melania Trump and Donald Trump. And she was like, I cannot date somebody who likes a photo of this president. And I mean, that's up to them, right? So it was a little bit more than that, but yes, Brian, your personal brand totally matters. They're Googling, they're seeing what you're saying, they're looking at your photos, and guess what they're looking for? They judge you based on your worst photo, your worst tweet, your bad moment. So if you're single out there, think about your profile. What do you need to do to change? Do you have a picture in the last month of you smooching with your ex-girlfriend and you're on a dating site right now? I think it's something you need to archive. I'm not saying you delete, but you should archive those posts.
So you got to get rid of all of those pictures of old parties and old exes?
Old party, I think so. I mean, unless you really know, I mean, I don't know that you should get rid of your ex-wife. If this person's going 52 weeks in, that's a challenge, right? Of course, you had a life before this person, so it's understandable. But when somebody breaks up with someone and they're starting fresh, I think removing the photos of you in a romantic relationship with your past partner is an indication that you're ready to move forward. Nobody wants to compete with an ex. And I think it is a good sign to be able to do that when you're trying to invite somebody new into your life.
Okay, so I can sort of understand if you were, maybe in your 30s and you were just out of a relationship. But let me use myself as an example. I'm a little older than 30, and I was in a relationship for a little bit longer than a decade. And I've got several decades of pictures of anniversaries and of parties and of children and things like that. Are you suggesting I got to go back and delete that history if I want to date again?
I'm not suggesting. It depends on how fresh that is. If clearly, Brian, I'm seeing posts of 2017, 2016. Yes, you were married then. But I think that you should keep a clean slate of any relationship for 12 months. That is a good indication. You've given yourself a year. If your last post with a romantic partner was in 2019, that's a couple of years ago. That is just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. If you can avoid any kind of conflict or any insinuation of there could be something there. And of course, it's different from having a girlfriend to having had a partner, a wife, and children. Because again, I've been married. I didn't eliminate my ex-husband. Now, we were divorced in 2006. So if someone's going to have a problem with a post in 2006, then we have a serious problem there.
So you had another post that I really quite found interesting, how to get over the end of a relationship. And you said there's an era of dawn daters, people that post-pandemic are getting out there and dating again, I guess, for the first time in a long time. Tell me about how to get over a relationship.
Oh boy. Some people will say to get over someone, you got to get under someone, right? Can I say that here in the radio?
I'm not sure, but it sounds like an interesting idea.
Yeah. I mean, some people absolutely use that strategy to start dating right away. I think it's really important to be transparent. The best way to get over someone is to invest whatever time and energy that you would have invested in that partnership in yourself. I'm a big believer in investing in yourself, in doing whatever it is that will make you happy, so long that it is not going to interfere or interrupt or upset. You know, you're not doing things intentionally to say, nah, look where I'm at, look where you're at. No, it has to come from a place of really wanting from love, a place from kindness. Perhaps forgiveness is necessary in moving forward, because if you're harboring all of these really negative feelings and you're thinking about your ex and woe is me and I want to get them back, and you're living in resentments, guess that energy is just going to flow into your next relationship. So getting over anybody has to do with getting yourself to a place where you can really start on a clean slate, whatever that takes. During both of my, any time that I've ever had something serious, a life-changing experience, I'm a big component of hiring coaches. I work and coach with a lot of people who did break up during the pandemic, and including myself. Whenever I'm challenged in whatever area in my life, I will see who's the expert, who's the best person that can help me get through this difficult time. So I work with coaches, I work with professionals, therapists, psychotherapists, especially in the place of relationships. I've had people say they've worked on their inner child, they know their attachment styles. So I think that's what's important. And then when you start dating, it's okay to start dating casually, right? And just to be transparent about that. Hey, I'm not really ready for a serious relationship, but I'd like to start as friends. Some people just want to hook up. As I said, if that's your thing, I just believe that you need to be very honest with where you're at, so that your partner or the person you're dating has the opportunity to choose. Do they want to enter a relationship with somebody who's not on the same page, or are they willing to wait? So those are the conversations that I'd be having. And I would be surrounding myself with things that are making me happy and that are good for my life, my health, and my finances, because those are the things that are going to attract people into your life, the right people.
Health, wealth, and finances. Sounds good.
Yes.
You interviewed a gentleman that talked about applying the marketing flywheel to dating.
Yes, Dr. Dave.
And it was marketing concepts that you said that he had used in the corporate world, and he was applying it to dating, and that was successful. And it was all about building relationships. What is that? Is that casual dating, just meeting lots of people, or what was the secret?
Dr. Dave is an incredible, and he's a handsome young entrepreneur. Ladies, you got to check him out. But he's a marketing guy. He's a marketing expert. So what is he going to do? He's going to create the dating flywheel, his marketing flywheel. Thinking, okay, who are the types of women he needs to meet? How he's spending his time? Where is he going to meet them? So he's strategizing how to do that. And it's really important that when you're single, that you do have a strategy, that you do have a plan of action. Because if you're sitting at home, guess what? Prince Charming or Mrs. Right isn't necessarily knocking on your door. You have to put yourself out there. And coupled with that marketing, Brian, again, it's that personal branding. What are the pictures you're putting out? What are you saying about yourself? Are you clear on your goals? Do you know exactly what you want? Do you know your hangups? What did you learn from your last relationship? I think it's really important that you are marketing yourself to the right audience as well. Are your people going to be on Tinder? Probably not. No, I'm not knocking Tinder at all. I know a lot of people that have met somebody on Tinder, but maybe you want to go to eHarmony or Match.com or Hinge or Bumble. Some women, they don't want men approaching them. So Bumble would be the place because women lead. So do your research and try everything. I think, for me, I'm about diversifying that dating portfolio. I don't think it's one answer. The more that you can put yourself out there and lead with the right image, the right words, the right, intentions, and that you're transparent about it, the more success you will have in achieving whatever those dating goals are.
Okay, but then you had this post that I thought was very telling, that you said that so many singles adopt a fast food mentality when it comes to finding a partner online, when it should be treated like fine dining. That fast food is cheap, easy, fast, convenient, and many times not so good for your mind, mood, and body. Does that sound like some relationship you've been in? The way you describe it, it almost describes like you're suggesting people should go out and go to the buffet, go to the fast food counter, check out as many people as they can. What do you mean by we should do fine dining dating?
Okay. So my comparison, no, I'm not suggesting, I'm saying the majority of people are in the fast food dating strategy, where again, the decision to date someone is left or right, swipe left or right. Like, imagine that's what people are viewing you that, like, it's looks based, right? I'm attracted, I'm not attracted. Fine dining is an investment. And I do believe that when it comes to your dating life, when you're at the stage where you're ready to meet a life partner, and that's a distinction because I'm a matchmaker, Brian, and relationship expert. When you're ready to skip the fast food and level up to fine dining, what are you going to do? You're using better ingredients. You are ready to invest. You're willing to wait. You're more patient. I've been to many restaurants where the food takes it took a long time, but I know it's once delivered, I want to savor it. It's not something I'm gonna, scarf down my mouth versus, oh, give me that burger. It's gone, right? You want to enjoy it. You want to appreciate it. You want to savor it because you're spending the money. And that's in the comparison I have when it comes to fine dining. Most of my clients want the best for them. They want top shelf. They want 1%. And I'm just speaking from the clients that I work with. There's nothing wrong with fast food if you just want to consume a lot and taste the entire menu. But when you're ready to really settle down, you're going to make that investment. And that investment is in your time and your money in the right person, and not wanting to just do the dating gamut, because that's very time consuming. It can be very costly when you're dating multiples and you're not dating with intention.
Several times you've had posts about trying to figure out who you are and who the me is. You had one quote: "I wasn't ready to be in a relationship until I met blank. I had to work on me first in order to attract and keep a relationship." And so did she. It took a whole year before we went on a first date. That sounds like you're slow dating, but it really suggests that there's a whole bunch of inner work that you think people need to do before they can find the right match with someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when you think about people, and I can recount reasons, and I always ask everyone who's come to me coming from a divorce or coming from a broken relationship, what happened? Many times the conversation is, I did not know myself. I changed, or I lost myself, and it was all about the person, or whatever the case is. It's just, again, it's all different depending on the conversation. But if you don't know yourself and you just date for the sake of dating and you're not clear, anything you want in life to be successful, you want to have a very clear path. You want to know what it is that you need. And so many people come to a dating coach or a matchmaker because they'll say, I don't have a clue. And when you don't have a clue, you invite everyone and everything, whether it's right or wrong for you. Once you figure out who you are, what your needs are, your values, and what's important, what truly matters, then you can call that into the universe. You can write that in your profile. You can take the appropriate photos and you can start to entertain. Only set those boundaries. Only be speaking to people that have the opportunity and higher likelihood for a long-term relationship. As an example, I have one client. I don't want to give any context of what he does, but he doesn't want to have children. He already has kids and he's still pretty young. He's 40, but he's had a vasectomy. And so one of the conversations he avoids is asking women, who are between 30 to 40 if they want to have kids. And I say to him, don't avoid that conversation. Why invest in a relationship if you know she wants to have kids and you can't and you don't want them? So this is the thing that I'm talking about when it comes to being clear. You might be goo goo gaga because they are attractive to you, but if you're not aligned, no amount of lust and attraction is going to trump real compatibility when it comes to things like that. And I find that a lot of women as well, they're afraid to express that they want to have a family or that they're serious about relationships because they don't want to seem needy. And at the same time, you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person, and you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. So it's really important to just really own who you are, be clear, and don't be afraid of it. That's from an abundance mindset. People are often dating from scarcity. They settle for less because they don't feel they can get what they want.
Really fascinating that you think that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, which really means that it's almost unconditional love, that the right person will forgive you for saying things that are wrong, saying inappropriate things, not being there at the right time.
Or they'll see through that. Absolutely.
That's a great attitude. And it's also that you can't say the right thing to the wrong person, which means that if it's not going to work out, no matter what you say, it's not going to turn around. We're having a chat tonight with Carmellia Ray. She's a celebrity matchmaker, a relationship expert. She does dating coaching and matchmaking and relationship coaching, etc. for lots of people. We're going to take a break and come back with some concluding comments in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saturday Night 60. I'm having I think, a fun conversation with Carmellia Ray tonight. She's a celebrity matchmaker, a relationship expert, a dating coach, a friend, someone who I've admired. I've had the pleasure of sharing the stage with her, I guess, a couple of times, almost a decade ago, that we ended up sharing the stage together and talking about relationships. And I talked about relationships from a business standpoint, and Carmellia talked about relationships from a dating standpoint. Carmellia, you had another post that I really quite enjoyed. It was called How to Love Yourself and Date Yourself After a Painful Breakup. And it was all about getting over that painful breakup. And you had this recommendation to get a love recovery coach and to date yourself. Really? Date yourself?
Oh my gosh, if you have not dated yourself, you need to. And what I mean by that is I think we all deserve to pamper ourselves. And so when I date myself, I will take myself to dinner. Mostly I will get a manicure, a pedicure, a blowout. I just treat myself the way I want to be treated. And that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to wait for somebody to treat you with the kind of respect that you need or want. And by the way, if you don't know how to treat yourself, how are you going to share with anybody else how to treat yourself? I book home massages when I need it, right? I will, once my guilty pleasure pre-pandemic was I would wash my hair once a week. This is my natural hair, but I can wash my hair, but I don't want to. I want to feel pampered once a week. It's my guilty pleasure, right? And I love trying new restaurants, and maybe it's dancing in your underwear at home and with your favorite music, and that's what you want to do, or you're eating that chocolate or whatever it is on your cheat day. I have a girlfriend who every Sunday, I watch her stories. She dates herself every Sunday. She gets a slice of pizza. She goes and does her cupcakes. I think you might know Carla. Brian, I think you know Carla, my girlfriend, Carla Gillis.
I don't.
Okay. Anyway, she dates herself and she loves it because
maybe you should be the wing woman.
Oh yeah, maybe maybe for sure. So part of that is knowing if you do not know how to treat yourself, how can you teach someone else or show someone else how you want to be treated? And that is the secret to dating yourself, is getting to know yourself as well. What do you like? What do you don't like? It's just getting comfortable with yourself. You don't need somebody in your life. So if going out to dinner solo is uncomfortable, I recommend you do more of that, because then you get to be confident being on your own. Nobody needs to judge you, or you don't need to feel judged because you're doing these things. It's so funny because when I do go out and I do these spa days for myself, the women or the service providers are like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm treating myself." They're like, "Oh, girl, you deserve that. How often do you do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know, once a week, or maybe it's once a month." I think it's important, especially me as an entrepreneurial mom. Trust me, I do not neglect myself, Brian. So I recommend everybody does that.
But I think it's a really important idea that you've got a point that you're making about, you got to figure out what you're all about. And through dating yourself, getting to know yourself, understanding what you want. I think too many people define themselves by the relationships, define themselves by the people that they've been with. And so if they go through a painful breakup, they get lost. I spoke with just someone earlier on an interview that wrote a book about this topic, and she said she just didn't know who she was because her whole self-identity was wrapped up into the relationship she had and who she was with. And she went through a very painful process of trying to figure out who she was. And then she came to the realization that she had forgotten the girl that she was in her late teens and early 20s. And that she had to refine that. And that when she refound that, and someone who had matured over time, that the type of person she wanted was extremely different than the type of person that she had been with. Anyway, Carmellia, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Tell me, what are you up to these days? What new projects have you got going on?
Thank you for asking. Well, during the pandemic, I had launched a matchmaking academy. It's matchmakingacademy.com. So anybody who's thinking of having a career like myself in the matchmaking space, and maybe you want to be a matchmaker, check out the matchmakingacademy.com as well, because I know so many people want help during the pandemic. I am only one person. I'm starting a group coaching program, 90 Days to Love. It is if you go to my Instagram and click the link in my bio, the Sociotap link, it'll show all the things that I'm up to. I'm helping people get more TV appearances in the media. I'm helping people find love, and I'm helping people have a career in matchmaking. So I've got a lot of things going on. Find it on my Instagram at Carmellia Ray. Follow me there. If you're single, you can DM me single, and you will talk to my love bot. My love bot will take you through the journey of figuring out how I can support you. And so those are some of the things that are going on, Brian. Thank you so much. Always happy to share space with you, and look forward to coming back.
Carmellia Ray, celebrity matchmaker, owner of LoveBot, and someone who helps people with branding and relationships and becoming more successful both in business as well as life and dating. Thank you so much for joining us. That's our show for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. You can get all my podcasts and videocasts on briancrombie.com, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Audible Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, and on Speakeasy. Thank you. Check me out. Good night, everybody.